Morning, Laura.
Hello, lovely to see you.
Thank you for meeting with us. We'd like to talk to you a bit about epilepsy and your role as an MP. When were you first diagnosed with epilepsy?
I was about 23 and I had a sort of massive seizure at work, and I have to say it gave my colleagues rather a shock. But so I got diagnosed at 23 and I've had maybe about 5 or 6 episodes since then.
And has it affected your career becoming an MP?
No, it hasn't. I think that there's an element, though, of stigma, and if I'd advertised the fact that I was epileptic, I'm sure people's misperception and misunderstanding of the condition might have come in the way.
How about when you were selected as the candidate in your constituency? How did that work out?
Well, there was no problem initially, and then I spoke to the chairman of my organisation. And I said, I think you should know that, I'm epileptic and it's unlikely, but I could possibly have a seizure. And she said, well, so am I. The amount of people in the country who have this condition is much larger than people know. And in many ways, the more people can talk about it, the more everybody starts to say, yes, my uncle, my daughter, my aunt, etc. have epilepsy. And normalising it, and in some ways also normalising people's responses to it.
Yeah. There are some changes afoot in the health services, and I think a number of people with epilepsy are concerned about what's going to happen with GP commissioning. How do you see all that working out?
I think it's absolutely crucial that we put in place the right understanding of epilepsy at a GP commissioning level, but I think we also need to look at some of the specialist commissioning that needs to support those with extreme epilepsy, also sort of paediatric epilepsy as well, and I think we need to assess how these reforms will actually impact the treatment of people with epilepsy. I'm concerned, but I'm sure that we can address it.
Yes. What about GPs? Do you think they have the knowledge of epilepsy to be able to deal with it?
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky in my area. We've got a GP who specialises in epilepsy, but that is extremely rare around the country. And we've got to start expecting GPs to understand a lot more of these sorts of conditions. Epilepsy, MS, Parkinson's. If they don't have the understanding, they don't have the knowledge, then we're going to have to start to get gaps in service delivery.
Yes. You've recently been appointed as the chairman of the all-party group on epilepsy. What's the level of interest within the Commons around epilepsy?
I think it's increasing. Both myself and Paul Maynard have declared ourselves as having epilepsy. I think that that's created a new climate. We do know that statistically there's likely to be another 5 within Parliament who still haven't declared themselves.
Indeed.
But we have Valerie Vaz is introducing a 10-minute rule bill. We're really pushing the agenda with all the different ministers, and I think that's being very positive. That's
encouraging. And what about public awareness? We still feel there's a stigma associated with epilepsy, and we need to do all we can to raise awareness. What's your message for us and what we should be doing to raise awareness?
Well, as I said, it is very, very important that as many people who have epilepsy actually declare that they do, because it isn't the perception is that we people who are sort of constantly in seizures where there are major problems. Actually, there are a lot of people that have got controlled epilepsy. I think we've got to be public about it. We've got to say that it's a condition that many people have, and certainly not hide it, because that's really where the lack of understanding comes from.
Yeah, there's still a lot of prejudice, I think, around epilepsy, stigma. You've obviously succeeded in your career. What advice would you give people who might be watching this who have epilepsy about how they can overcome that prejudice and stigma?
Well, I think it's in many ways incumbent on people like myself and organisations like yours to go out there and actually talk about epilepsy and normalise it as a condition. I think that it suffers from, in many ways, a sort of, 19th century perception of what it means. But we can't stop, banging the drum and ensuring that people understand that it isn't something that prohibits you from achieving whatever you would like.
Laura, we're very grateful for you coming out and speaking about your epilepsy. I think you're a great role model for people with the condition, and thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Well, thank you for all the work that you do as an organisation. It's really important for all of us.
Thank you.